Hey guys, Buffing Game Vet today bringing out a video, and today we're going to review the mode Iron Trials, which just came to Verdansk or Warzone here the end of last week and has been one of those limited time modes here throughout the weekend. And really why this is one of the better modes, or probably one of the best limited time modes besides the buyback modes, and offers a larger skill gap between those who are good at the game and can actually aim versus the very fast time to kill that we see in regular Warzone. So in the background you're just going to see a mix of some gameplay here. With my duo partner for this mode, Dill. We did a couple wins on stream. I think we had a total of 4 wins on stream the past couple days, and we had a few wins off stream as well. Now, this mode, Iron Trials, again, limited time mode, and really what this does is increases the health from what is, I believe, at base with your fully plated 250 in the regular Verdansk mode. It increases the health up to 250 at base with no plates, and then with fully plated up, you're 400 health. So it drastically increases, or I guess lowers, the time to kill. So it takes longer, obviously, to kill opponents because you actually need to hit your shots over a longer period of time. So that kind of switches up the meta as far as weapons in some respects or aspects go. And as well as, like I said, it creates a better skill gap. So those who can actually aim consistently versus those who are using maybe the top meta weapons. We'll use a Krieg for an example here. Recent Krieg, before it was nerfed, had laser beam recoil, or no recoil, it was a laser beam. So during that time, if you were to catch any opponent kind of crossing the street or just even get eyes on them first, they were basically dead because there's a lot of weapons in the game for base Verdansk which don't really take any skill. And as long as you get eyes on first and shoot first, you're usually going to get that kill. So with that fast time to kill, we see that change here in this mode. Some other things in this mode for Iron Trials is the only vehicles are dirt bikes and ATVs, so helicopters, trucks, and cars are removed from this mode. Also, there's no loadout drops at all, so you can still buy them. However, they cost 15,000. The whole buy station prices have been increased, so loadouts now cost 15,000. Self-revives, I believe, are 5,000, and buying back an opponent, I believe, is either 4,000 or 4,500 in this game mode. So no loadout drops are free. You can buy them. However, the ground loot has also been switched up, so the ground loot seems to be more viable. However, if you get caught in the end game without a loadout, you will be typically at a big disadvantage because the loot pool has been reduced, so there's not as much loot. So basically the strategy that we follow for this mode is land on either a scavenger or a king and try to save up that money. You need 15,000, and again, there's not as much loot around the map right now, so you need to be able to save that money over a longer period of time. Get $15,000, call in your loadout, and then again, you really need to use UAVs or just go and kill some players and try and get their money. Get yourself revives, UAVs, things like that. Typically, you're not getting a second loadout unless you happen to do a lot of contracts and can get that money, because really $30,000 is a lot for 2 loadouts. So you can use those for self-revives, UAVs, things like that. So Ghost kind of becomes less important here. Another really key aspect of this mode is that the health system, on top of just having higher health at base, the health regen has been changed. So now there's actually a game mode here, this being Iron Trials, where the stim shots are actually viable, because when you get that low health and your no plates, your health will take a much longer time to regenerate to full. So if you have stim shots, you can essentially give yourself what would have used to been fully plated health with just a regular stim shot. So it actually comes in very clutch. I'm not sure what the time is before your health regens regularly now. However, it seems to be basically an eternity. At least I would say 10 seconds, because if you get caught no plates and you're very low health, almost dead, you're gonna notice that you can't peak for a while until your health starts to auto regen. So if you have stims, it makes a world of difference, especially in the middle of gunfights. If you lose your plates, you can pop that stim and it gives you an extra leg, especially because the enemy's going to have to expend more ammo to down you at this spot. So at that point, you have a good probability that your enemy may run out of ammo at that point if you're going to be able to pop a stim. So really what I was doing here, maybe not in the game, all the gameplay footage you're seeing, but eventually I learned to pick up or equip stims, as well as you want to kind of tweak your loadouts that make sure you have amp if you're running overkill. That way, if I'm running something like you'll see here, like the PKM or the PKP with an AA-12, just swapping between those can get you killed because of the slow swap without amped, which I did get caught with a couple times, and we had a really high kill game. That's one thing with this mode is high kill games, or what I consider personally like regularly higher kill games for me, are a lot easier just because of the skill gap. Now, I'm able to hit my shots. I don't use meta weapons. You guys know me. I like to use weapons, mainly Modern Warfare, that may not have never really been the meta, quote-unquote meta. However, I use these weapons now in this mode because I still do have pretty decent aim, I would say. I can get away with the less meta weapons for the most part. And I'm able to get 7 to 14 kill games typically, as long as I'm able to get my loadout and get going. Now, that's one thing I really like about this mode is typically I kind of struggle to get those higher kill games. 14 kills is something I never really get. However, I was able to get a few kill games above 10 and a few really hot starts where I was 8 kills really close into the game. You know, we just got our loadout. I'm already 8-9 kills. You can really get going in this mode if you're a decent player and can hit your shots. And you can get away with those less meta weapons. If you look at the meta weapon chart as far as usage goes, the weapons I use are typically on the bottom of that chart. So it's not weapons that you see Jay got or anybody else talk about. So typically I get punished in regular Warzone, but here, for the most part, for most of the weapons I use, I can get away with it. And I found the PKP or the PKM and the AA-12 shotgun combo probably be my best combo, just because equipping 200 rounds of the PKM, PKP, and having that AA-12 for close quarters with a 32-round drum or a 20-round drum seems to be extremely effective. Like I said, you just can't get caught with amp. But again, the skill gap here definitely makes a big difference. You can actually have gunfights. If you get caught and you're getting shot first, you always have a chance to pretty much turn on somebody. And if you can hit your shots more than them, you can get that kill, especially it gives you a chance to evade these shots. If you're getting hit, to get behind cover, movement. If you have good movement, you can get away from those shots and avoid kills. And it makes for some really fun and, I would say, interesting gameplay. It really reminds me a lot of Black Ops 4 Blackout. The health system there was much more increased compared to what we've seen with base Warzone. And that game mode was a lot of fun, because if you were getting shot first, you could easily, if you were a better player, turn on somebody and kill them. And especially there's no loadouts in that mode, so it made it for a very interesting, very random type game almost every single time. You wouldn't see, that's one thing, you wouldn't see loadouts. You would have to basically build your weapons and loot for the attachments. So you would never see like one meta weapon being used by everybody unless they were just randomly able to get that weapon with all the attachments, which is very possible, but never would you run into basically a situation where every player is using one weapon, because there's just a limited amount of those weapons and attachments on the map. So Blackout I thought was a lot of fun. That's something that really made that game stick out, is the TTK time, as well as the fact that loadouts, you had to build them from looting, and they were random, just basically what you could loot off dead players, what you could loot off the base at the start of the game. Made for very interesting dynamic gameplay, whereas with Warzone, obviously you call on your loadout. If you have meta weapons, like we'll use the Krig, for example, and everyone knows it's the best weapon, and you have a lot of content creators creating content saying it's the best weapon, then you have more players using that. It creates less variety within the game, whereas something like Blackout, you had a lot of variety because you were never guaranteed to get those weapons, and it made it a little bit more interesting in my opinion. So that's something I really liked. And again, this, I think, is a good, healthy medium between the two. The increased health makes the game mode a lot more fun to play and enjoyable. It could definitely use some improvements, but it's crazy to me that I think we're about a year and a half in, and they're finally coming out with a mode like this where they're switching things up, like the health system, different looting aspects of the game, weapons on the ground loot, things like that, loadout prices, buy station prices, all this stuff being switched up with one game mode. At this point, I think, and not really to be too critical, but I think NASA is able to build and launch satellites into space faster than it took Raven or whoever's in charge of Warzone at this time to make some changes on the back end to Warzone to make it a little bit more enjoyable for everybody. So hopefully this is something that we're going to be seeing more of going forward. Hopefully there's a healthy integration of this mode or some better version of this mode going forward that will replace the base version of Warzone. I think if you're going to be including multiple different games of weapons, like we see Cold War integration, Vanguard integration is coming. If you're going to be doing that, there really needs to be more variety of weapons. We can't just be going through 2 or 3 weapons that everybody's using. If you increase the health like this, it increases the variety of weapons that you as a player are able to use, and it makes the game a lot more enjoyable also. Now, some improvements that this game mode could, I think, benefit from would be mainly lower the loadout drop price back to 10,000, just because it is difficult to come up with 15,000, especially if your duo partner dies, and then you need to not only buy them back, but then you both need to come up with 15,000 for a loadout because there's no free loadouts. That can be a little bit tedious. Now, there's two solutions to this, or maybe a few. You can reduce the loadout price from 15 down to 10, or you can increase some of the looting options on the map, have more money a little bit here and there, or have something so you allow the player contracts cost more money, introduce a new contract so you get more money. The kings, I think, are a good way to go. However, there's a couple situations where one of us would die and lose gulag. That person does a king, the other person comes back. We still don't have enough money, so we try and do some contracts, things like that. Someone else will die, we do a king, the other person comes back, and just going back and forth, and we never get that loadout. So really, unless you're able to get a solid start, it can be difficult to get a loadout. If one of you is dead and you need to buy that player back, it really puts you at a big disadvantage. Now, the ground loot is definitely better in this mode. However, it's still not going to be as good as having your weapons with your loadouts, especially in the end game, because you really want those perks and your tacticals, things like that. So it can definitely be more difficult. So that's something I would like to see improved, is really just lower the price of loadouts or make it easier to get loadouts, especially when you get into that part of the game where someone's dead and you need to buy them back. You're going to be in the hole big time, 5,000 to buy someone back, and then you got to come up with 15,000. So all in all, that's about a $20,000 hole to dig out of there. And then if you want yourself revives, that's another 4,500, I believe it is, in that game mode. So you're really spending a lot of money, and with reduced money on the map, it kind of incentivizes you to kill players. However, if you're coming back with gulag weapons, or not gulag weapons in the case of being bought back, you just have that magnum and the hammer, and at that point loot is pretty scarce on the map, so it really puts you at a big disadvantage in the end game there for sure. So that's one improvement, and really one of the only improvements I would like to see. I think also going forward, I think when we get maybe closer to Modern Warfare 2, I really think they need to overhaul the Modern Warfare weapons. That's something that clearly isn't going to be happening now as far as additional attachments, and when we think of things like that being the SCAR with maybe a larger magazine of 45 or a 60-round drum, things like that to make some of those less used Modern Warfare weapons more viable. I think throwing in some additional attachments would just fix that problem and assist with that. However, I don't think we're going to see that until Modern Warfare 2. So that's something we'll just have to hopefully wait for. And when Modern Warfare 2 comes out, whether or not they wipe Warzone and start over with Warzone 2, or whatever the second iteration of Warzone is, or they add in Modern Warfare 2 weapons on top of the Modern Warfare, the Cold War, and the Vanguard weapons, yet to be seen. However, it should be interesting, especially if they create a mode similar to Iron Trials, or like Iron Trials, maybe the same thing, just tweak the loadout system and the cost. And I think that would be the mode that would be kind of the favorite mode, or the base, should replace the base mode of Verdansk in Warzone. It's a lot more fun, and I think if you just increase the viability of a lot of the weapons, which they're doing for the most part, it makes it a lot better. So I would still like to see some weapons like this SCAR. They're not heavily used, and they're even probably less used in this mode just because you only have that 30-round magazine. In the Modern Warfare AKs, can be very difficult with only a 30-round magazine. If they're not viable in the base Verdansk mode, they're going to be almost less viable in this mode. So that's just something to keep in mind there. Hopefully some healthy improvements like that will be coming down the road. Let me know what you guys think. Again, I had a really good time playing this in duos. It'd be fun to see this in solos or even trios. I think it would be a lot of fun. Quads might be crazy, but still a lot of fun. The mode itself is a blast. It makes you have to be a better player to get those wins, and I got more wins in this mode than I typically would get in regular Warzone in a whole week. So I think this is obviously the mode I prefer. It's more fun. It rewards better players, and if you're a camper who uses the meta weapon, you're not at the huge advantage that those players have been at for until now, I guess. So hopefully Raven can keep it up and keep spitting out better game modes like this faster than NASA can put a man on Mars. Let's keep our fingers crossed. Let me know what you guys think of the Iron Trials down below. Till next time, Buffering Gaming out.